Well, I think we live in an interesting time, and everything's changing very, very quickly. And I think one of the things we have to think about is how we have to be gentle with this and recognize we're actually all beginners. In 50 years ago, we didn't have to make the kinds of decisions we have to make now. So around here in Newcastle, where I live, people have 103 visits to somebody, like a doctor or somebody, in the last year of their lives. So there's a lot of things going on now. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made, a lot of conversations that have to be had. But we need to understand that that's a new thing, and we have to be ready to learn and research and evolve and learn from everybody else as we do this. And there isn't a simple fix. It's not you put everybody on this, or there's a magic drug or a magic pathway. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be diverse, it's going to be complex, and it's going to be different for people in different settings. In fact, one of the really complicated things about end of life is that while all of medicine's going down the let's restrict and pathway things, let's get everybody onto protocols, end of life and dying is, well, everybody wants to be different. And this is a really new challenge for us as well. So it's new, and it's increasingly diverse, and this is what we're struggling to understand and cope with at the moment. So there's a number of issues around that we have to take into account. One of them is that, you know, everybody we have to increasingly see as an individual. You know, you are you, and you are special because you are you, and you're you right to the very last days of your life. And in medicine, we've usually treated people more like, you have this condition and we have this drug and we give you that and you get better. But we're now learning that patients towards the end of their lives will have values that we have to increasingly try to understand. I mean, I'm an intensive care specialist, and we went through this golden period of treating young people with aggressive technology. We could open arteries, we could breathe for people, we could replace their lungs function, we could dialyze them, we could do anything we wanted. But over the last 20 years, we found that a lot of people don't actually get better anymore when we do that, because they're chronically ill, not acutely ill. And the illnesses they've got, we can only manage, we can't actually fix. And over 20 years, we've learned we have to stop doing things, and sometimes not even start doing things. And in that setting, the values of the patients become incredibly important in terms of how and when we go about doing that. So the thing that I really want to just emphasize is that when we start talking about dying well, or dying more authentically, or more in keeping with your own values, we can't wait till that last few days of life. This is a dying process that's gone on now for at least a year, if not more. And it's that whole period where we have to come to know you and have this conversation. And people talk about having the conversation. There's a whole thing called the Conversation Project, the conversation. It isn't the conversation, because once you've started a conversation, it's a conversation, and it's going to continue, and it has to continue, and it has to be iterative, it has to be ongoing. And the whole era when we thought we could fix everything by doing an advanced care directive, you know, I don't want CPR on a piece of paper, was somehow going to fix everything. Well, I mean, that turns out just not to be the case. That isn't what it's about at all. And in fact, that whole thing about you just get people to write something down and that fixes everything is another oversimplification that we have to worry about. Because it isn't just making a single decision and writing it down on a piece of paper. It's starting a conversation with the people who love you and the people who are going to look after you, and trying to make that conversation build an idea of who you are and what you might want. That we could be looking at a whole situation where instead of just doing what the doctor said, and doctor knows best, that we're moving into an era now where patients themselves are expected to have values and preferences, and to come prepared with those to meetings with doctors who exchanges values and preferences with you, and between you, you come up with a course of treatment. Now, I think that's important I think that's very important at the end of life, but I think it will extend further than that as well. My hunch is that people in the regions and rurally have got much more opportunity because of the nature of the environment that they work in and the communities that work together to have these conversations over a period of time. And I went to Inverell, where the nursing home and the hospital are almost right next to each other, so the opportunities are really there. And I would imagine that the evolution or even revolution that I'm talking about can actually take hold more rapidly in regional centres and rural centres than it will in the big cities. The rural and regional communities are going to steal a march here if they put their minds to it, and some are.